welcome back to my channel, Burst of Sunshine. It's Ashley, and today we are doing some very cute Halloween inspired DIY projects. These are great for decorating your house or just for funsies, because who doesn't love a good craft project? So we're gonna make this quick, easy, and to the point. We have 4 projects for you today, so let's just get into them. Let's go. The first thing we're gonna do is this beautiful cauldron. This is one of my favorites. It has a little topper. It's totally optional to make the topper. You can use it to hold candy. You can put anything in it. I'm using mine as a candy jar, but I just love how this turned out. First, you're gonna need like a little fishbowl globe thing. I got mine at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. I'm gonna paint this black because, you know, it's a cauldron. Now that we have our beautiful matte black cauldron painted and dried, we're just going to add some drips with a hot glue gun. This is just going to give us the effect of like a potion that's bubbling over and spilling out because we're cooking up all kinds of great potions. So I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and I'm just going to go all around my cauldron, making this little drip design and filling it in. It doesn't have to be perfect because the messiness of it kind of makes it look even more like the overpour of the potion. So yeah, I just did this. Just be very careful not to burn yourself, but this is the fun part because you can kind of make it your own with the little designs. This is how it turned out once it is completely dry. I think it is super stinking cute. And now for the topper, I'm going to use this foam sheet. I got it at Walmart for like, I don't know, 50 cents. I got white just because I figured it would be easiest to match up the paint if I just started with a solid base. So I'm just putting my cauldron down on top of it, and I'm just going to cut out a little circle-ish shape to fit on top of my cauldron to be like a little lid or a topper. I'm going to fix this circle to make it look a little bit nicer and fit a little better. I'm just going to trim at it and kind of just eyeball it. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. That's the beauty of the homemade craft projects. Now that we have our base here for our topper, we're going to add some beads. I got this 90 pack of beads at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. I'm going to hot glue these beads onto this foam, and it's going to look like the bubbles, the bubbling of the cauldron. That's kind of the look we're going for. So I'm just going to sit and glue about 30 of these beads onto this little topper thing. I made sure that the hole of the bead, like where you would string a string through, is on the side. So that way the top of the bead just looks like a solid round ball, like a bubble. So that is what I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm kind of just randomly placing them around. I contemplated if I wanted to like pack it full, but I decided in the end just to kind of have random bubbles around and not have it completely packed, but you can totally do it however you want. This is just the way I wanted it to look. Now, in hindsight, I definitely would suggest painting the little foam sheet first before gluing your beads on. I figured this out after it was too late because it is a little harder to paint with all the beads on it. If you paint this first and then glue the beads on, it really would save you a ton of trouble, but do it however you want. This is what it's looking like right now before paint, but of course we are going to paint this. Now you can paint your potion whatever color you want. I just, for some reason, love that bright green look to it, so I'm going to use this paint I got at Walmart. It is called Parakeet, and I'm just going to use this to paint over all of my hot glue drips on my cauldron, and I'm also going to paint my topper. Now it does take a couple of coats, so I'll do, I think, 2 or 3 coats of paint on these to make sure I get them completely coated. I want it to be opaque. I don't want to be able to see through it. I want it to look beautiful and bright and vibrant. So yeah, just paint as many layers as you want, and you can do whatever color you want. Heck, you can make a pink potion. I just really like the green look. It's definitely giving me the witch vibes. So yeah, I'm just right now painting over all of the hot glue, and then I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to paint another coat, and then I'm going to do that about 2 or 3 times until I just feel like my hot glue is coated very nicely. And now we're going to do the same for the topper. I have a little paint on my hand, ignore that. We're just going to sit and we are going to paint all of our little bubbles, and we are going to paint the base because we want this to just look like just nothing but green potion boiling over. Again, definitely paint the base first. This was so much more complicated to sit and try to squeeze my brush in between the beads to get the base coated nicely. So yes, hindsight, paint that first, then add the beads, and then you can just go back in and paint the beads in any hot glue that shows. But it still turned out super cute the way I did it. I'm just telling you a way that would be just a little bit easier. So again, same process as before. I'm just going to completely coat this with paint. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to top it about 1 or 2 more times. Now that it is done, I'm going to put candy in mine. You can put whatever you want in yours. You can just use it for decor. You don't even have to put anything in it. But I'm going to use mine as a candy dish. So I'm just going to fill it with some candy corn. And then here's my little topper once it is dry, and it just sits right on top. There we have a beautiful cauldron, completely homemade. It turned out beautiful, and it is just so fun, and it is going to look great on my mantle. Now we're going to make a little haunted house. My mantle just needed a little something extra. I thought this haunted house would be super cute. It is so easy, you would not believe, so I'm going to show you how to do it. I have these 2 doll houses that I got at the Dollar Tree for $1.25 each. We are going to use both of the houses, but only one of them needs a roof because, I mean, it's going to be like a 2-story haunted mansion. So I'm just going to slide the roof right off. They easily pop right off there. And so now we have one base, and then the top piece we have the roof on. So this is how they're going to stack together. But first, I'm going to go ahead and paint them before I stack them. It just seems like it would be easier. So I'm going to paint them with this Ultra Matte Black Rust-Oleum paint. It's my favorite spray paint to use. Now that we have our house painted black, I did have a few places that chipped a little bit. You could probably totally go over this with clear spray paint if you don't want that to happen. I didn't mind because I plan to distress it anyways, but yeah. So next I'm going to add a little bit of glue right here onto this piece. This house I got, it was the only doll house that my Dollar Tree had in stock. And it has the one side of the house that's just slightly taller than the other side. So that is where I attached it because that is where the houses touch because of that little taller side. And after this dries, I'm going to fill that little gap in between the houses on the other side. But for now, the glue has to attach it with that piece so that way it will stand up straight. So as you can see, there's a little gap there. Don't worry, so we're going to fix that little gap. See here, my house is dry, and I have cut this tiny little bitty piece of scrap foam board, and I'm just gonna glue that in there just to kind of hide that little crack. We're gonna paint it so it blends in, so don't worry about the fact that it's white. We just want to fill in this crack so that way our house looks complete and does not have a big gap in it. So again, just adding a little bit of hot glue, and then I'm just gonna push my little foam board strip right down in that hole, and now our little gap is filled. Once that is dry, I'm going to just go in with a little bit of the black acrylic paint that I have, and I'm just going to take a little brush and I'm just going to paint the foam board just to kind of make it blend in, because otherwise you're just going to have a weird white strip on it, and we didn't want that. So here's what it looks like after I've added my little white foam board and I have painted it. And now we are going to add some distressing to give it that haunted house look. I'm going to use a chip brush here. As you can see, I've used it before. I love my chip brush. And I'm just going to use a little bit of white acrylic paint. It's the cheap paint from Walmart for like 50-something cents. And I'm just going to use my chip brush to kind of just distress some white paint on there a little bit. This is like one of my favorite things to do. I love to distress things with this chip brush by just adding a little bit of paint. That's all you have to do. I did put some lights behind this at first, but I did end up liking it better without the lights. I thought the lights kind of made it look less spooky. So I took the lights out, but you could totally put some twinkle lights in here, and it turns out so cute. This next project is these custom, like Addams Family signs. You could put any last name you want on here. I am aware that the Addams Family, like the movie, uses 2 Ds. This was for an actual family that I made whose name was Addams. So I spelled it for their name. I'm going to show you how to make these custom for any name you want. First, you're going to take this sign that I got at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. They have these that have different sayings on them. I just grabbed, some random ones, and this is what we're going to use to make our sign. I took the string off of it where it hangs, and now I'm going to take some sandpaper, and I'm going to sand off the big glitter pieces here because you don't want them to stick up once you paint it. I did start sanding immediately, realizing this was a bad idea to do in the house because of the glitter, so I took it outside and finished sanding. Here you can see I have all of the glitter words sanded off. I did end up having to use a stronger sandpaper. That 100 sandpaper just did not do the trick. This 80 worked perfect. So I'm going to take some black acrylic paint that I got from Walmart for like 50-something cents, and we're just going to paint over this so we have a solid black sign. Because we sanded it, it was a little dusty, so I decided to give it a quick wipe down before I go in with my paint. And then I'm just going to take some paint and a paintbrush, and I'm just going to coat the whole thing so it is completely coated and you cannot see any of the words underneath. It's pretty easy to coat with black because, you know, black covers up things very easily. Once we have the black coat painted, I'm just going to go over it with a very thin layer of matte Mod Podge. The only reason I'm doing this is because I did not want my transfer tape to pull up any of my paint when I add my vinyl to it. So the Mod Podge is hopefully just to seal in some of the paint so that my transfer tape doesn't rip it up. Now that's done, I'm going to measure each of these little boxes individually because I'm going to try to make a graphic to fit it, and they're all different sizes, so I thought it would just be easiest measuring if I did each individual box. I wrote down all of those measurements, and then I went into Cricut and I'm going to create this sign background. I just think that will just be the easiest process for me to make the graphic. So I'm going to add a rectangle. I'm going to change it to the size that I need for the top block, and then I'm going to continue to do that over again until I get all of the blocks put on there, if that makes sense. Like how it looks like wood panels, I'm going to make a wood panel thing for each one, and then I'm going to add it on there. Sped this up a little bit just to not be here all day, and this is kind of an overall view of what our sign looks like. And so now I'm going to start working on the words. I feel like making the sign background just kind of makes it easier for me to decide my placement of everything and how big they need to be, so that's why I made sure to make the sign in the exact sizing in the background. So now I'm just typing out the words. This is the words of the theme song of the Addams Family, and I'm just putting it together on here so I can start changing fonts and make it pretty and move it around. So the first step is putting the words on there. Next, I'm just going to go through the process of changing all of these fonts to make them fonts I want. You can make these whatever fonts you want, but I am going to put in the description box below links to all of the fonts I used from DuFont. This is for personal use. But yeah, I will put them in the links below, but I can go ahead and tell you really quickly. The fonts I used are Haunted Night, Halloween, Obsessed Halloween, Halloween Nightmare, Baby Halloween, Halloween Pumpkin, Halloween Nightmare again, and then Fiddums Family. That is the name of all of the fonts I used. I got them all off of DuFont, but you can use whatever fonts you want. You can change this up, use your own fonts, and do whatever you want to customize it how you want. So as you can see down here in the name, you can just change this name to whatever name you want. I made one that said Lewis and one that said Addams, just to kind of show that you can customize this however you want. Again, I just moved things around and adjusted them until I got them how I liked them, because I was a little indecisive when I was making this, but I will again leave all of the fonts down below. So now I'm going to cut this out of my Cricut. I forgot to mention I did take the background off first before I cut them. I forgot to add that in there, so I just cut the words. I did not cut the little background that I made. Now that I have these all cut out on my Cricut and weeded out, I'm just going to place them on my sign. I decided since the name was the biggest part of the sign, I would put that on first and then build my way up from the bottom. You can put these on in whatever order you want. This is just what worked easiest for me, so that's how I did it. So as you can see here, I'm just placing the Addams Family name first, and then I'm going to kind of build up from there and adding all of the words in the order that they go in, obviously. I'm just going to add the words on one at a time, kind of making sure to shift them as I need to so I can make sure they all fit beautifully. I have family whose last name is Addams. That's who I'm making this sign for as a gift, and they absolutely love the Addams Family song because, you know, their name is Addams, and so that is why I made an Addams Family sign of this random song lyrics. I just thought they would really like it. So now I'm going to take some white acrylic paint and my chip brush, and I'm just going to kind of distress the black background a little bit. I didn't want the sign to look too clean. I wanted it to look weathered, like maybe it was in a haunted house. So I did go in with my chip brush and the white acrylic paint, and I just kind of brushed it all over to give that black background some distressing. Now that that background is distressed and looking beautiful, the white's a little bit too white on the words. So I'm going to take some black acrylic paint and I'm going to do the same process with my chip brush, but I'm just going to try to just brush onto the letters on my vinyl. I'm just trying to distress my vinyl a little bit so it looks like it's old, weathered, painted words. And I just did this all over the sign, all over all of the words to try and distress it. Now that we're done with the distressing, it is ready to hang back up. So instead of using the like twine looking string that was on it, I decided just to use some black string that I had. I just thought it looked better with the creepy Halloween vibe I had going on. So I just threaded the strings back through the holes that were already on there. I tied knots and now it's ready to hang. You can make this with any last name. These are customizable and I just think they turned out so cute and make a perfect Halloween decoration for this year. This final project, although did not turn out perfect, it has potential if done correctly, so I'm still going to show you guys how I did it. I got this doormat from the Dollar Tree for $1.25. It's very flimsy, but it is still fun to kind of customize. I did take a measure tape and I measured about how big I wanted my graphic to be, and then I created this graphic that says Velcome, like a vampire, get it? I uploaded a graphic of this onto my Pinterest account, which I will link in the description box, so that way you can go and save a copy of this graphic to make this for yourself. You can hand paint this if you don't have a Cricut. I just decided to use a Cricut for the ease of things. I did just cut this out with regular adhesive vinyl. I decided to use a color that I don't use often, you know, because I wanted to use it as a stencil so I can spray paint this. So here I am just adding in the little pieces that came out of the letters. I made sure to press this down really good so the spray paint wouldn't seep in. It did obviously have issues, but it still has potential. So now I'm going to go spray paint it. I suggest covering the rest of the mat. I didn't do that and I didn't realize my spray paint had traveled. And as you can see, there's kind of white all over the place of my spray paint. It's not horrible, but it definitely could have come out better had I covered it correctly. But we are still going to proceed. I'm going to use this red apple acrylic paint and I'm just going to paint some like blood dripping off of the fangs. That's meant to be little vampire fangs, obviously hanging on each side of the word, and I just wanted a little bit of blood kind of on the tips of it so you could see what it was. I am going to also paint like a little drip that looks like it's dripping off of one of the teeth. In hindsight, I also wish I hadn't done that because I feel like it looks like I just messed it up, but I did purposely put that drip there to look like blood dripping off. These are super cute, and if you cover it up correctly, it would turn out awesome. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see every time I post a new video. I have a new video coming up next week. You do not want to miss it. It is Halloween inspired. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.